My guest is Joanna Seitz from Kingston Grandmother Connection. So good to see you again.
Good to see you again as well, Donna. Happy to be here and happy to talk about our coming spring market.
That's right. It's coming up in about a month.
That's right. May 3rd, Saturday, May 3rd, from 10 until 2 o'clock at St. John's Anglican Church.
And that's the one across from Domino Theater?
You got it.
In
That's
Portsmouth Village.
That's right.
All righty. And it's a really great organization. Fill us in on what Grandmother Connection is.
Okay, well, probably many people in the Kingston area already know about the Kingston Grandmother Connection. We were founded originally by just 4 women, and now we number over 200. And what we do is we fund 2 organizations that support grandmothers and families in Africa. The Stephen Lewis Foundation, and also another smaller organization called Helpless Sutu. And what's the reason why we are so avid in our support for these 2 organizations is that both of them are very committed to community-led initiatives, so that we do not tell them what they need, they tell us what they need, and we try to find the means to help them. And which brings me to an important point, because right now they need our help more than ever.
And why is that?
With the cut in funding that came from the U.S., it was a drastic cut. So that many families in Africa are now not only going without their AIDS medications, they're also going out without vaccinations for malaria and medications for other diseases that are prevalent in the African countries. And so, I mean, and we have people who are actually going hungry because of the aid that's been cut. So that at our spring market, there are going to be 2 things that are different. Okay. At the checkout table, there will also be a jar that's an emergency donation jar. If people want to make direct donations after they've shopped and gotten all that they want at our market, and these are a few of the things that are available: African baskets and plants and baked goods. All of those things are available. But after you're finished shopping, if you would like to make a direct donation to help these communities with the shortages that they're facing, we will ask that you just make a donation. If it's a donation over $20 and you give us your contact information, we can provide you with a tax receipt.
And that's always nice. But this time of year when we're doing our taxes, we kind of wish we'd been a little more generous last year.
That's right. It's front of mind, right? That the donations do make a difference when we file our taxes.
Right.
The other thing that's will be unique at this spring market is we're going to have a bin placed there by the food bank. And so if you're coming and with money in your pocket to buy some things, maybe bring a bag of groceries that you find you're not really using in your home, or that you've picked up at the grocery store, and add that to the bin, so that it's because some people question why we're sending money far away.
Well, it comes to mind, and I've heard this myself, when you hear about aid, and especially when they cut the aid program, they'd say, well, why should we be supporting? We got lots of poor people here in our country.
Right.
So you know, what is the justification?
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people in need right here in our own community,
yes, we do.
right?
Yeah.
And I think what I would like to bring to people's attention is that really this isn't an either-or situation, right? It's more of a yes-and situation. And truthfully, Donna, I think almost every grandmother in our group that I can think of is involved in some way in raising funds in the local community as well, either doing things or raising money. So we have grandmothers who are involved with the food bank, Martha's Table, refugees, immigrants, some are tutoring, and of course many grandmothers are working through their local churches to support people in need in our community. But I think what happens when we do that, when we reach out to people in our community, it's almost as though our hearts are softened, and we realize that there's need everywhere, and that as a grandmother, I want the best for my grandchildren. I must know that every grandmother in the world wants the best for their grandchildren as well.
And these women are so behind the 8 ball, as we say. They may be ill themselves. They're certainly, they age differently than we do. We think that they must be about our age, and we find out they may be in their 40s, and they just age so differently. And it isn't just maybe one grandchild. They may be raising a whole bunch of them from an infant to a teenager because they've lost their parents to AIDS.
Right. And some of them even take in other children who have no one. So they're taking in and looking after children. I was just reading today about someone who isn't a grandmother. Actually, her name is Tina, and she's a young mother in Zimbabwe. And she was in an abusive marriage, and it was when her husband assaulted her daughter that she decided to leave. She went to the hospital to have her daughter taken care of. She couldn't pay the doctor's bill. And so the doctors there recommended that she go to an organization called, excuse me, let me get the name right, Musasa Project. And when she went to the Musasa Project, they were able to help her financially, but they were also able to help her find support in moving out of an abusive relationship. And that's another thing, that both of the organizations that we support address gender violence. And also, something that I think is such a very good insight is that they also help psychologically, because these people have not only gone through losses, but they have trauma that they're living with. And so that needs to be addressed. Besides giving seeds and food and any other physical aid that we might offer, there's also that psychological support that says to both young people and grandmothers, you are good people, and you can make good choices for yourself. And so that's what we are so proud of the work that's happening. And again, I can't say it enough, this is all done at the community level. So it isn't that some a psychiatrist from Kingston goes there and says, this is what you need to do. No, it's grandmothers, and the grandmothers often would gather once a month, and they would support each other. And what often happens in those group gatherings, leaders emerge, and then we support those leaders, and they are the ones who continue the outreach and the listening ear and the helping hand for other grandmothers and other people in the community. I think I've mentioned other times when we've talked, Donna, about the herd boys. These are, in particular, I know about them in Lesotho, where the herd boys were, their families have nothing, and so their job is to go out into the hills and look after herds, so they don't have a lot of social contact.
They're like shepherds.
That's right, but they're isolated. They don't have the opportunity for education or social interaction. And so oftentimes these young men were growing up with the idea that they need to be rough and strong and demand things of women and others. And what Help Lesotho realized is that we need to reach out to these young men as well, that men are the victims of gender violence in a different way, aren't they? In that they have an idea that they need to be violent in order to be men, and we know that that's not true. And so we've reached out to them and offered them opportunities. What they did is they offered them opportunities to work on the computer. That brought them in.
Of course.
But then we realized all of the things, all of the self-esteem issues that they were facing, and so that needed to be addressed as well. In fact, one of our grandmothers said that when she was visiting there, and some of the herd boys were being trained that weekend, and the one boy spoke up and when asked what he needs or what he would want, he said soap.
Soap.
Right?
I mean,
Yes.
things we take.
Not a video
soap.
game.
No, soap. You can't even picture that. That it was something we take so for granted. Who would have thought?
That's right. That's
It's
right.
amazing.
So
Wow.
anyway,
Well,
yes.
the other thing I really like is that they give back in that they give you stuff to sell on their behalf. Like some of these things are made by people.
Well, these baskets come from Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay, and they are such a popular seller.
Yeah.
We
They're sturdy.
very,
Really
very good. In
sturdy.
fact, there's a lady who's a potter who says that she carries her clay in one of these baskets because it's that sturdy and can carry that heavy a load. Very, very popular item. And of course, wonderful plants. One of our grandmothers, who is the Polar Plunge lady, Gail McTague, is a wonderful gardener, and she'll have all of her plants, and other grandmothers as well who have a greener thumb than I do. And at the front there is one of the bags that's made by we have wonderful, wonderful sewers in our group, meticulous sewers. And this is just one example of the work that they do. And so all of those things will be available. Plus, as I said, there will be nature cards available. There will be baking that's available. Just come out, have some fun
Absolutely.
with us. That's one of the things that you'll find when you come and shop with us, is that we're having a lot of fun, and we want you to have fun too.
And it's always a good time. It really is. And I know this year is going to be a big success too. Thanks so much for coming in.
Okay, thank you. And we invite everyone to even join us as members.
Absolutely. You don't have to be a grandmother either.
No, you do not.
Absolutely.
You just have to have a happy and a willing heart.
Okay. Thanks for coming in.
You're very welcome, Donna.